Pascal Siakam has been one of the hottest players in the league over the last month, and in turn, the Toronto Raptors have been one of the best teams in the NBA, catching fire at the perfect time as they have nearly avoided the play-in tournament and look to play spoiler in the first round. So let's talk about the recent success of Pascal Siakam and the Toronto Raptors and how they could cause a first-round upset. Pascal Siakam has gone from NBA Finals winning rising star to the butt of Twitter discord and criticism to having a chance at being named All-NBA third team while playing at a superstar level over the latest stretch of the season. Pascal Siakam has taken his scoring to a whole other level this season. The typical offense of Siakam has been there, from fast break scoring to taking advantage of mismatches, his memed but great and much more effective spin move throughout the season compared to how it has been over the last year or so. But his scoring has continued to get better and more efficient in other facets as well. Siakam is shooting threes at arguably the best clip of his career. His shooting volume from deep is not what it necessarily was at one point over the last couple of years, but that's probably for the better, at least at this point in time in his career and with how well he shoots them. He doesn't need to shoot a ton of threes, but being able to make some threes makes his offensive game that much more successful. Having NBA defenses having to respect Siakam's three helps his own offense in terms of people having to actually come out and close out on him. You can't sag out on Pascal Siakam right now, or he is going to make you pay, and that makes driving lanes much more available for Pascal Siakam. It leads to more spacing on the offense when Freddie or Scotty or otherwise has the ball in their hands, but just open up more driving lanes for Siakam and others. He's not hitting a ton of them, but he's hitting them at a very good rate. His mid-range game has also continued to look more comfortable and more productive throughout the course of the season. However, the underrated part of the offensive development for Pascal Siakam over the course of the season has been his playmaking. His passing, his handle, his vision have all been things that have taken improvements over the course of the season, and he has had some performances where he really puts that on display. There's some nights where the playmaking isn't significant from Pascal Siakam, where he does kind of have to carry the load from an offensive standpoint for this Raptors team, specifically when half-court offense is the offense the Raptors have to run the most when they can't get out on the fast break. Siakam is the half-court offense guy for the Raptors. But there's also nights where his playmaking is just there. It's what they need. Other guys are hitting shots, or Siakam isn't hitting the shots, and he can go out and get 8, 9, 10 plus assists on any given night and be that type of playmaker. He isn't doing it at a consistent level night in, night out, but he has shown that he can have that level of playmaking and does have that level of playmaking when needed. The defense of Pascal Siakam continues to be very underrated as well. It has always surprised me how little credit Pascal Siakam gets for the defensive end. He has great length, he has very good lateral quicks, can provide some fine defense in the post, even though he is slightly undersized. He doesn't do great against big matchups like Joel Embiid, but he can be fine there with his good length and activity. He does get a little bit handsy at times. He can look to reach when he shouldn't reach and doesn't necessarily move his feet. But when he is moving his feet, Pascal Siakam is a very good defender. His length is very disruptive for contesting shots, getting steals that lead to the fast break, and can provide some level of rim protection at time as well, although it certainly isn't his strength, but it certainly can provide some very good help defense. As great as Pascal Siakam is, this Raptors team is much greater than Pascal Siakam. The starting lineup 1 through 5 is one of the best and deepest in the NBA, and simply what I mean by that is that all 5 starters are average to above average starters. There's no not great starter within the team. And as far as a future upside goes, they have the upside to be one of, if not the best starting lineups in the NBA. There's a reason this team's been good this year, and it's not because of their bench, because of their starting lineup. From Fred Vanvleet and Gary Trent being near the top of the league in deflections, being very disruptive at the point of attack, while also being able to drop 30 plus on any given night with very good scoring outbursts. The great man-to-man defense from OG Anunoby with his length and activity, while being able to give some spacing on the offensive end and some improved offensive performances this year as well, alongside the length and activity of Siakam and Scotty Barnes, who give you very good defense, who can be some point forwards for you, and give, of course, in Siakam's case, and even Scotty Barnes' case, some nice offensive performances. But the biggest takeaway is that this is one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. All 5 of those guys, when locked in, are very good defenders. There's a lack of size in a true center at times, which can be problematic depending on the matchup. But with those 5 guys, that length, that activity, that defensive intensity, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and the stats would back that up over the latter course of the season when the Raptors have been playing their best basketball. Now, certainly, the Raptors don't have a great bench, and come playoff time, that could be a concern, but it has been better as of late than it was in the early parts of the season. Precious Achiuwa has been playing arguably the best basketball of his NBA career up to this point, and has significantly improved his three-point shooting, which would not have been something I expected to say at the start of the season. Chris Boucher has looked much better over the last few months than he did after his poor start to the year. Three-point shooting hasn't fully come back to where he would like it to be, but he's starting to hit them a few more, give you some good activity, length, defense, and rebounding. And Thaddeus Young was a questioned addition by some Raptors fans at the deadline, questioning how much we gave up for him for a team at the time that looked to be hopefully a play-in team. But he's been a very good depth addition and has proved to be a valuable addition to this bench that otherwise doesn't really have anything else, because the guard play off the bench still isn't really a thing. So it's a continued use of Barnes and Siakam as point forwards, taking up some of the reins when Freddie gets his minutes on the bench. One of the biggest things you have to consider with the Toronto Raptors, specifically in the playoffs, combined with their very good defensive unit, is the mastermind that is Nick Nurse. The Raptors have great defensive talent, no doubt about it. But Nick Nurse is willing to, has, and will continue to throw everything at teams in his bag of tricks, which is quite a deep bag. He's shown box and ones, he's shown man, he's shown different zones, different matchups, walls against Giannis, you name it. He is willing to try anything and everything to stop the opposing teams on the defensive end. And he's one of the best in the NBA, if not the best, at in-series defensive adjustments to get the best out of his players and the worst out of the opposition. He's done it against Steph in the finals, where he switches to a box and one. He did it against Milwaukee with Giannis, where he put Kawhi on him, and then you start building a wall in the paint where it becomes much more difficult for Giannis to attack through Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. The Raptors have had the best defensive rating in the league since the beginning of March. That good defensive of a roster, alongside the intelligence of Nick Nurse, is going to cause some problems in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. The Raptors may have had low expectations heading into the season, but they're now a playoff team. One of the hottest teams in the league over the last couple of months, and will be anything but an easy out for a team in the first round.